Hey, thanks for listening. Please subscribe to our newsletter at theproductporch.com for notifications on the latest episodes and exclusive content. I like that visual, by the way. I just imagine a party where a bunch of assumptions are having like little fact hats on and pretending they're facts. You have to walk around and go like, no, that's an assumption.
And I cannot help but think of the Austin Powers movie. He's like, it's a man, baby. And he's trying to like pull it.
Welcome to the Product Porch with Ryan Cantwell and me, Todd Blockier. Today, Ryan and I talk about assumptions masquerading as facts, why it's critical to unmask them, and how to know where to start. Now settle in, folks, because on the Product Porch, every topic is a product topic.
Like it was action-packed.
Have you ever played Cube?
I have not. Tell me more.
Dude's throwing sticks at blocks of wood. I mean, does it get better than that?
Does it get any better than that? Oh, yeah. Well, yard games aside, Todd, I've been thinking about something. I have seen a pattern emerge in my 20 years of working as a working professional. And it usually happens like this, where you're sitting in a meeting room and somebody, it could be anybody, not even the product team, any stakeholder, leader or otherwise, they make some claim. And it's often a big one that we've got it. This is what we're going to do. Or we know that this, if we just build this, this market, this is the thing we should chase. It's some big idea and everybody gets really excited about it. And me being a product person, I'm always the one that raises my hand and asks the question, hey, what evidence do you have to support that? I'm really curious to know why that's the right path. And 9 times out of 10, they can't give me evidence. And it's so frustrating because they are stating something as pure, unequivocal fact. But that's not it at all. It's an assumption, but they refuse to acknowledge it as an assumption. It hurts my soul as a product person. Todd, have you seen this happen before?
Oh my gosh. Seen this happen before. I've seen it happen every day. Multiple times a day this happens.
Yeah.
And multiple times a day I hear it come out of my own mouth. It's just such a common thing to make statements as if you have data or fact and you don't even realize your own assumptions. In fact, I would say a lot of times I've had conversations with a team and we have differing assumptions, but we never state those differing assumptions. And we could just go on planning our project together. And it's amazing how far you could get without those assumptions even getting on the table.
Oh my gosh. So yeah. So, okay. So let's start putting labels on these things. I mentioned a scenario. That scenario is the overt, not labeling something an assumption. Yours is the quiet, unacknowledged assumption.
I like that.
Okay. So assumptions are happening everywhere all of the time. Businesses wouldn't run without them.
Right. Yes.
Who is responsible for validating those assumptions?
Well, now we're getting into it, right?
Yeah.
Validating assumptions.
Yes.
There's a few things that I assume you're talking about when you say that.
Oh, an assumption. I see what you did there.
I think what we're responsible for as product managers is making sure the assumptions are on the table, making sure hidden assumptions are called out, making sure things that are stated as fact but are actually, they're assumptions masquerading as facts and data. Yeah. Making sure that we're unmasking them. Right. So it's both of those things. I like that visual, by the way. I just imagine a party where a bunch of assumptions are having little fact hats on and pretending they're facts. You have to walk around and go no, that's an assumption. And then there's a bunch of other assumptions just hiding in the backyard and you got to pull them in the house. Come in here. Come on. We got to get all the assumptions in. Let's go.
And I cannot help but think of the Austin Powers movie when he's like, it's a man, baby. And he's trying to pull yeah, he's getting it wrong. But okay, so Todd, this is interesting to me because you're saying as product people, we have a responsibility to unmask the assumption, to find them and put them front and center. And that's half the equation in my book.
Absolutely.
All right, what comes next?
After putting them in, well, then we got to figure out if we can validate these assumptions.
Yes, exactly.
Let's get into the nitty gritty on that. But before we do, it sounds a lot easier than it is. It sounds so simple. But the truth is, and I wonder sometimes, I know as a product leader, I frustrate my team sometimes. In fact, I've heard even my CEO at times make a statement, look at my face, and before I can say anything, go, okay, I know that's just an assumption. We may want to test that, but we got to move on.
Right.
And it is true. If you just stopped every time you hit an assumption, you're not going to move very fast. So I do think there's value to knowing what assumptions are worth testing and what assumptions are not. You know, before we get into that, because I do want to talk about testing assumptions and validating and all that.
Yeah.
Can we play a quick little game?
All right.
Let's do this. I'm going to throw some other terms we use in business at you that are like ways. So it's that cloak. Remember, we're cloaking the assumption in fact.
Yes.
These are some other terms we use to sometimes they're like fancy assumptions. We make the assumption fancy.
Fancy assumptions.
Okay, you ready?
All right.
So I'm gonna give you one. Here's your job in this game.
All right.
I'm gonna throw one out at you, and I want you to tell me how that is either different than assumption, or why we might use that term instead of an assumption.
Yeah.
First one, a hypothesis. It's not an assumption. It's a hypothesis.
I'm generally hypothesis positive because a hypothesis is born from an assumption. It's saying, if we do this, then this should result. So you're kind of thinking about it not as a fact, but something I can learn from. Let's try something. So it's allowing us to test an assumption. But I guess where it could go wrong is if we do use that without acknowledging the underlying assumption, we might just bias the test. Like we're gonna do
Can
something.
You create an example of that?
We say, instead of we think, we say we know. We know that this market is big enough for us to pursue. We know it. Okay, so if that market is big enough for us to pursue, then we should go develop this product.
Interesting.
So we go, if that market is big enough to see, okay, we can run a quick test. We can do some, find a study to say,
there's a little Tam, Sam, Som action in there.
Yeah, we can do a big top-down analysis, Tam, Sam, Som, and start to say, hey, look, yeah, it's big enough. We just convinced ourselves that is the right thing to do because we're so excited about it. We didn't say the underlying assumption isn't just, okay, yes, it's big enough, but we didn't break it apart. I think there are things there. Like, all right, are there enough people with this problem?
Right.
Is the pain painful enough for them that would want to buy this thing? Does this solution, in fact, solve that problem? And does this solution make sense for us as a business? Can we be profitable doing it? So
give me a little
these things.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So hypothesis is more, it should be testable.
Yes.
I think that's the main difference. And so hypothesis almost sounds like a fancy assumption. Yes. And sometimes we say hypothesis, it's my hypothesis, but we don't actually state it like a hypothesis. A hypothesis is if then and should be testable.
Right.
And so we say, my hypothesis is that the market is big enough. That's not actually a hypothesis. It's just an assumption.
Bingo.
How do you test it? What's the if then statement? Anyway, can you remind me? I said Tam, Sam, Som. Do a quick refresher. Tam, Sam, Som again is
TAM. Okay, so TAM is total addressable market. SAM is serviceable addressable market. So think about that as your segments of the TAM, right? Total addressable, big universe. SAM, segments of the market. And then the SOM, serviceable obtainable market, where you're looking at the realistic market share that you can capture from a particular segment relative to the competition, things like that.
Could be based on the size of your business and sales force and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
I think of it this way. I love Tam, Sam, Som. I think of his three brothers eating pie. Tam, his eyes are bigger than his stomach. Tam always thinks the whole pizza pie or pie is for himself. That is it. His eyes are big. Sam's a little bit more realistic, understands we have to take shares of the pie, knows that there's only, and then Sam is very aware of his own abilities. He's like, there's only so much pie I can eat.
Yeah.
I maybe do a slice. That's all. Anyway.
I'm going to steal that analogy, Todd. I quite like the Three Brothers analogy.
Right. Damn, Sam, I'm a simple man. Okay, let's get back to the game.
All
I love it. So hypothesis, there's a key difference there. But sometimes we fancy up assumption. Okay, next one. Belief.
Oh, because you heard me. I just used the word, right?
Yeah.
I said, we believe. Okay. Believe. We believe. So this is dangerous. In particular, when you are dealing with a hippo.
Oh, hippo again is?
The highest paid person's opinion. So you have a leader in the organization who is sitting in the room. And a hippo, I'm going to tell a quick story, Todd, on how this worked for me. So I worked for a company, and there was a fellow that worked there. He had been there like 35 years, he was like employee number 3 or something like that. And he knew the product, he knew the clients, he knew the market like very well. I mean, he was well respected at this company and everything. And he, in a meeting, even though he wasn't necessarily a hippo, I mean, he had a higher power title and stuff, but he was more tactical, by his role, at the company. And he, when he spoke, people listened. So he could say something and it would sound like, I believe this is what we should do. And everybody in the room would just say, yes, sir. That's what we should do because he's got the experience. And off they would go. So that's the danger. I think when we're saying I believe, it is too easy to hear that and think fact.
So I love that example. I mean, your story is all about power. Like your story, you imply that power has an effect here when it comes to belief.
That's right.
And there's all different types of power. And I think we have to be aware of that, right? There is actual power, meaning you are more senior to someone, and there's an actual power. That power imbalance means that word belief can carry a lot of weight. When a senior executive says, I believe this, we're just more likely to go. Yeah. Even if we don't agree or don't believe, we may be more likely to go because belief is powerful.
Right.
And then there's also just expert power. You could have someone who's a data scientist even telling you, I don't actually know this. I don't know. We haven't ran any studies here. I believe it's this though. And just because they're the expert, you may follow their belief. Yes. Even if they call out, this is just a belief. I actually don't know. Any kind of power that someone is holding can make belief a real powerful word.
Exactly. Yeah. So belief, you can use it for good, or with power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
With great power comes great responsibility to use the word believe.
Okay, next one. This is a common one I think we hear in product management.
Yeah.
Bets.
Ooh, okay.
We actually don't have assumptions, but we have bets.
We have bets. I had a leader once that loved this word. We're making bets. But what was so frustrating is they used the word bets, but they never actually looked at things as a true assumption. They'd call, okay, we're going to make a bet, but then they would get upset when something didn't pay off. Everything had to be a winning bet. So
it doesn't
it's
work.
Part of the game. So bet should imply there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers. And I think when people like the idea of, ooh, yeah, I want my team to be more acceptable of risk and how we look at risk. And if we make a bet, that implies some risk is being made. But then the expectation has to align with that. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Right. It's interesting. Yeah. It's kind of like when you say, we are an experiment. We do experiments.
Right.
But every experiment is validated and every time it's a yes.
Right.
You're not really doing experiments if everything is yes.
Correct. Yeah.
There's no such experiments. Just ask a scientist or a
Right.
series of experiments. I love that you use the word risk in describing
Yes.
that too. I think assumption equals risk.
Absolutely. Yeah. So an assumption equals risk because every assumptions, there is a sliding scale of certainty you will have that will come true or not true. And the more uncertain you are with the assumption, the more risky, the bigger the bet.
Yes.
And that's risk. Like the bigger the bet you make, the bigger the risk you assume.
I've asked the question, are we okay if we learn we're wrong? Because if we're not okay that we learn that we're wrong, then I'm not comfortable pursuing this bet.
Oh, Todd, okay. I am going to say this for every single person listening. Those 10 seconds of words you just said,
Mm-hmm.
I think every product manager needs to say them as a personal mantra every day. Are we okay if we learn we're wrong? Because not only are we made to feel like everything has to be right sometimes, but we convince ourselves of the same thing.
Yeah.
I think a big part of what we do, and we don't, and I think that's central to all this conversation that we're having, we too rarely have the uncomfortable conversation and ask, what do we do if this doesn't work?
Right.
What do we do if we're wrong?
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll add something else to bet in particular.
Yeah.
So what is a bet? If I'm making a bet, I'm putting money on the line
Yes.
or something on the line. And I'm saying, if this is wrong, I'm losing that.
I'm losing it. Something goes away.
I'm going to lose it.
Mhm.
Right? When you're making a bet in business, that's what you're doing. When you're making a bet in product, you're putting something out there and you have to know that if it doesn't work out, you're going to lose it. And that is often going to be time, investment in time, and of course, all the resources that are part of that. And then here's the other thing. Every bet has a measurement.
Yeah.
If you bet on a game, you bet on a basketball game, what's the measurement?
The score.
The score is the measurement. The score tells you, did I win or lose? That's the other thing with a bet. I've seen plenty of bets, quotation marks, made that have no measurement, that have no success metric. And if there is no success metric and we're not measuring it after we do it, we're not actually betting. We're just using the word bet to make us feel more comfortable about doing what we want to do.
Yes. That's the thing. And people use these words. I love the list you just gave us to make themselves feel better that, oh, we make bets or we believe.
I have a hypothesis.
We have a hypothesis. Yeah.
But is it testable? That's the biggest one for me with hypothesis.
Yeah, but is it testable?
Is it
How do we
testable?
know?
I can't tell you. So can I talk you through the process I use for hypothesis? I use the word
Lay it on
hypothesis a lot.
Yes.
I use it a lot.
Do
It's
it.
become common language at my company too. What I do is this. So when we go to make a bet, when we want to experiment, what we like to do is we think about that now, next, later roadmap. And we think about the next. We think about those things we could do next, but we don't know if we should or not. I'm currently testing multiple things at my company.
Yeah.
And what we do is we form hypotheses. There's usually a giant overarching hypothesis, right? It's kind of an obvious one. If we do this thing, then we believe this will happen. So if we build this product, then we think it will reduce churn. It will simplify acquisition. There's some business outcome.
Yeah.
Or, if we enter this market, we believe this will happen. Like, we have some overarching hypothesis.
Right.
And then there's a bunch of baby hypotheses. Yeah. And here's how I talked about getting all the assumptions that are hanging out in the backyard and we want them in the house. Here's how I do that. I sit down with the team and we do this. We say, okay, first off, let's list off everything we know about this, everything we know. And we write down a bunch of stickies. Now, there's always assumptions in there. Always.
Yeah.
That's okay. A bunch of stickies all over the place. And then we do, what do we not know? And we put a bunch of those up. Well, we don't know this. I don't know that. Questions. A bunch of questions usually. But here's what's fun is then we look at the chart and usually the thought is, okay, is there anything on the don't know side that we actually know that we have some data for somewhere already?
Yeah.
Or is there something on the no side that we actually don't know? It's actually a hypothesis.
Yes.
And what's funny is I have found that things usually move from the no to the don't know column a lot more than things move from the don't know to the no column. Because someone will say something like, well, we know that this patient care type is the largest patient care type or it's the most exciting one. It's the up and coming one in the industry. Wait. Do we know that? Well, I mean, they've talked about it a lot at the last event I went to. Okay. Does that mean that it's actually the fastest growing patient care type? Do we have any data on that?
That's right. Evidence.
So that's what we do. And then once we got those questions and our assumptions on the board, we turn them into hypotheses and we try to get them into if-then statements that we can test. And I can't tell you how many times we've ended up with ones where we can't. We just can't. There is no test to run because not everything is testable.
Right.
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, it has happened to me. Coming from a hardware background, in fact, running some tests are quite challenging without some investment where you have to like try to build something in order to react to it. So I have bumped into some of those scenarios before where we've got a big or a risky hypothesis or assumption or belief, whatever we want to call it. And we're trying to understand where we place our investment dollar. And the point of some of these things is to break them down. I like how you called them, would you say mini bets or
Yeah, mini hypotheses. Yeah,
mini hypotheses.
The baby hypotheses. You have the overarching one, and then you have the baby hypotheses underneath it.
Like getting to the baby hypothesis level is really hard. So we've spent a lot of time already talking about all these assumptions and names for them and things like that. But I want to chat with you a little bit about how do people articulate them? Like, I don't know the pattern of spotting an assumption. Where can we start?
Interesting.
Yeah.
You want to play another game?
Let's play.
Okay. I made up a fake scenario. And there's some assumptions baked into my fake scenario.
Okay.
I want to see if you could spot them.
Oh, okay.
You want to do that?
Let's do it.
It'll be fun. Okay. So here it is. We have here's our situation. We're a product company and we build project management software for teachers. Teachers have their own projects,
yes,
right? That they run all the time. And we're project management software specifically for teachers. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now I'm a leader and I'm going to come in the room and I got some stuff to tell you. I want you to count some assumptions that are in here.
Okay.
Maybe there's 0.
Oh.
No, there's not 0, but
all right.
Okay. Let's go through and see how many you can pick up. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
All right, Ryan. Okay. We know that teachers don't have time for complicated tools. So our simple Kanban style interface will be a hit. Most teachers already use Google Classroom, so they'll understand our layout instantly. Plus, since they care about student outcomes more than anything else, they'll adopt our tool if we show how it improves class performance. If we integrate with Zoom, we'll nail remote learning districts too. So anyone doing remote learning is going to be on right away. So let's prioritize the classroom and Zoom integrations so we can launch our MVP by September, right before school starts. Do you want me to do it again? Did you get a few assumptions in there?
All right. I was feverishly typing. You didn't hear it because I muted myself. Okay. I'm going to see how well I did it after the first pass, Todd.
Okay.
All right. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I counted, but there were probably more because it was like long run-on string of assumptions.
Let's hear what you got.
Okay. All right. Number 1, teachers don't have time for complicated tools.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay.
Why is that an assumption?
Okay. That's an assumption because what we need some evidence to say, how much time do they have? Where are they putting their time and energy? Is this, because we could even split that into things like what are how do you know that? What are the complicated tools they're using? what are the tools? Which tools are they happy with? Which tools are they not?
What is complicated for a teacher?
What does complicated look like? Yeah.
Complicated for one role looks very different for another. Complicated
Right.
for a engineer is very different than complicated for a teacher.
Okay. Assumption number 2.
Good.
Kanban style interface.
Nailed it. Ding, ding, ding. Another one.
All right. So why does that work for teachers? What is good about it? What isn't good about it? How does that fit into their workflow and allow them to organize things? So are we just making an assumption that Kanban is the right way to go? Maybe their brain works differently and Kanban will break them.
I love that you stated that because, side story here, we did an experiment one time on a tool where, it was on a product altogether. So we were building a product one way, and it was looked a lot like an analytics tool. And I might have mentioned this before. There's a term that we used in our company all the time, building cohorts. In fact, there were some competitors in the market already, and they would use that term too, building a cohort. And this is when you were trying to find patients for a clinical study, we'd build a cohort of patients. So I met with a lot of study coordinators at these hospitals and these clinical research sites. And I would start talking about how they build a cohort. And I think I probably even use the terminology in my discussion, which is an anti-pattern.
Yeah.
But over time, I learned they don't think of it that way. They don't even think of it as building. They think of it as narrowing. There's a large data set of patients, and they're cutting through that data set to find the right patient for their study.
Interesting.
They're not building a cohort of patients. They're narrowing it down. Once I learned that, I actually wrote it out and drew it, their mental model in 3 steps based on everything I'd heard. And then went back to those same study coordinators and said, is this right? Is this the way you think of it? And they're like, yeah, that's actually how we think of it.
Oh.
Totally opposite of the whole way we talked about it. Opposite of what the competitors already had. Anyway, side note there, but you just caught a big assumption that could be super meaningful.
Yes.
Kanban may not even be the way they think.
But we have an assumption that is right.
All right, let's do the next one.
Next one. Okay, so this one, I might need a little bit of refresher framing, but I wrote down Google Classroom. Teachers.
Yeah, most teachers already use Google Classroom.
Most teachers already use Google Classroom. Is that true in maybe one school? Is it true in a district? Or is it more broad than that? We don't know. How do you know that most teachers use Google Classroom? That seems very broad to me.
Let's tick off the next 4 really quickly. You're doing so
Google
good. Those
Classroom,
are 3.
Next one, student outcomes are the priority.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. They will adopt if they choose class performance.
Yes, they'll adopt a tool if we show how it improves class performance.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Zoom for remote is the right integration.
Yeah. Why that one? Just call it out. I know you know why, but why is that a big assumption?
That's a big assumption. So Zoom, like, do they even use Zoom?
There are so many tools out there for remote learning.
Right. Like, which one is it? And then I guess the final one, it kind of like wrapped everything up. We must prioritize. You said those words. We must prioritize Zoom integration. And there was a couple of other things, but I didn't catch them all in order to be successful. So our assumption is we got to put all of this together. That's the only way we're going to win. Assumption.
Dude, you did so great on this. I think the only one you missed is I did say so we can launch by September, before school starts.
I missed it. Yeah.
Right? But really? Maybe that's when your kids start school.
Yeah.
Other kids start in August. Other kids are year round.
Yes.
What is the procurement cycle for a school? Do they actually purchase things in July?
Right. They're not going to purchase in September. Yeah. How do their budget cycles work? Oh, such good points. Yeah.
So anyway, you did a fantastic job. And I played this game because you asked the question, like, how do you spot assumptions? You obviously did great. There were like 8 assumptions and you found 7 of them just in listening to one paragraph. You're like, wow, that was a long string of assumptions. But tell me, like, what kind of tools or what tricks did you use? How did you find that? Like, what were some of the things that that
You already
helps.
recommended one, what we know, what we don't know. I'm going to call that out because I stole that from you and it works. Let's just write down the things, try to take a step back and think about what we know, what we don't know. It takes reps. You just have to do it. You can do it everywhere. In a conversation with your friend, your kids, your partner, I don't care, your peers. Start to be a little bit skeptical and curious.
It's almost teaching critical thinking. It's getting good at spotting a claim. Okay, what claim did they make?
Yep.
What evidence would you need for this claim to be true?
Right.
So there's a statement. It was popularized by Roger Martin. When someone makes a statement or recommendation, ask, what would have to be true for that to be right?
What would have to be true for that to be right? And this is what I tell all the product people I interact with. And this is how I prefer to think about it. If I were asked to stand in front of my boss and my boss's boss and other leaders at this company in a room and make that claim, would I have enough evidence to feel confident that it is true? And if the answer is no, it's an assumption we need to test. We don't have enough evidence to do it.
I love that. And I think what I've learned to do is I've learned to turn these kind of claims into hypotheses.
Yes.
You could do an if-then model, or you can do a we believe model. But like we said before about bets, there has to be some success metric.
Mm-hmm.
So we believe teachers who use our tool will find the Kanban style layout intuitive and helpful for organizing lessons. And we'll know this is right if what? How will we know this is right? And that's our test and some metric. But it's getting good at listening, I think, for you just heard them. You said like intuitively, you heard all the phrases. You heard the we know. You heard the we know. As soon as someone says we know, that should ding your brain. Ding.
Do you?
Might be an assumption. They'll love, this will do this. They always and never kill me. Right away, you got an assumption if you hear always and never. Rarely is anything always or never. Very, very rarely, right?
Yeah.
So when people will say it to me, and I mean, first off, just to say, you could become pedantic product manager. You could pedantic Pete really fast.
Right.
People will all hate you if you always call it the always and nevers. But it should at least ping your brain. You're not necessarily to stop the show and wait, is it really always? Okay, fine, Todd, 97.3% of the time. No, but at least like internally you should know, okay, we obviously have an assumption here because we're saying always, we feel very strongly about this. I need to know if we have evidence for it.
I smell a series of LinkedIn posts in the Jeff Foxworthy style. This might be an assumption if.
Oh my gosh, that would be fantastic. This might be an assumption if it starts with
Right.
I always or it always. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when we talk, we load up people with work. Because think about someone listening to this, they're like, okay, so now I need to be aware of all the assumptions stated in the meeting.
Right.
I need to turn them into hypotheses, figure out how to measure and test them.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, holy cow, that's a lot of work. Okay. Well, first off, we don't need to be doing this all day long, every day. That would be insane. That would be a full-time job, and no one would like that person. I think we should talk about when we should be doing this, maybe a little bit. For example, the first thing that comes to mind for me is not all assumptions are equal. We said assumption equals risk, right? But not every assumption is made equally.
That's right. Yeah. So assumptions, I think when you say they're not equal to one another, what we're talking about is just prioritize. We need to prioritize our own time, energy, and effort into what we are going to test, because it is unrealistic to test everything.
Oh,
that is
impossible.
It's utterly impossible. Like that is, you're like Sisyphus pushing a boulder up the hill, and you just can't. You'll never finish. It's never going to happen. So the way I like to approach this, Todd, and how I was taught to do it, and it works, is I just use a simple 2x2 matrix.
Love it.
And the x-axis is uncertainty. And I want to emphasize the un in uncertainty, because off to the right, high uncertainty means I don't have evidence. I'm making it up. I truly have nothing to support this.
I have no idea. This is a wild guess.
Yeah, wild guess, high uncertainty, and that's like high side. Low side, I have some evidence. I feel good that this is true. In fact, I'm confident that this is true. And then on the y-axis, I put impact, meaning how important is it that we get this right? Because if we don't, does everything fall apart? That's a high impact assumption that if this is wrong, we lose everything.
So let's go back to our example, right?
Uh-huh.
So if we are doing this on that on that scale, we might look at something like most teachers already use Google Classroom.
Yep.
And I might think of that as like, okay, what if we're wrong and they don't use Google Classroom? Well, if that informs our integration and where we start, that could hurt us. That could hurt pretty bad.
Pretty high impact.
Maybe we should be prioritizing something else to integrate with. So we better test that one. Do you have an example of like a low impact assumption?
We're past like the big risky product market fit centered assumptions. And maybe we're asking a question about like willingness to pay. And it's like, okay, our assumption is they'll pay a subscription of $30 a month for something like this. So if we get that wrong, the world's not over. We adjust it. It's
right.
Yeah. Sort of.
You're giving the insight there to how you know whether or not it's high impact.
Yeah.
And a part of that is how quickly can you turn around?
Yeah.
So like we believe that they'll prefer blue over green.
Yeah.
Well, we learn we're wrong. We can make it green. It's really quick.
Right.
But there's other choices that you make where you're defining the structure of your product, and turning around is really hard. Or, for example, one of the first assumptions with this one is that teachers even need a new project management software, that they would adopt a new product. If they will not adopt one, or if schools won't pay for one,
right,
this whole thing is a waste of time. You can't turn that around.
No.
There's no turning around from that. So how hard would it be to pivot off that decision should help you indicate how important it is. Can I tell you one cool thing? Ryan, I love that you taught me that matrix and I use it. I use it now. So I already had my tiny X discovery process, and then I've added that prioritization to it, and it's been so helpful for my team. But I'll tell you one thing, an engineer solved a problem for me. That uncertainty line, I used to say that, and it would confuse people.
Yes.
And finally he goes, Todd, why can't we just put certain on one side and uncertain on the other? And I'm like,
certain, uncertain.
That's it. That's what I do now.
Magic. That is magic.
Uncertain, certain. Great.
See, I love it so much. All right, well done. Please give that engineer a high five from me.
I will.
Yeah.
All right. Is it time for our takeaways?
It is time for takeaways, Todd. That's lots of T's. Time for takeaways, Todd.
Takeaways, Todd. That's what they call me at work. What? All right. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
You go ahead.
Okay, I'll go first. The one thing I got, first off, I have so many takeaways. This is going to be challenging to pick my favorite one. But one that wasn't as immediately obvious to me until we started going through this conversation was we are drowning in assumptions. Drowning them. We just speak this way as humans. There's assumptions all over.
Yeah.
But we don't need to worry about that. I think what we need to be really good at is identifying the assumptions that create the risk from which we can't return.
Yeah.
That's what we got to know. What are the assumptions that we can't make a U-turn on? We better identify those. We better figure out how to test those. So that's my key assumption is that we don't have to worry about testing all assumptions. Just be really good at identifying the assumptions that are going to hurt.
The assumption of no return. It's like abandon all hope, ye who enter here.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and prioritization is a really good reminder, but I think almost a better first step that I'd like to offer, a big takeaway for me, Ted, I'm going to analogize this to the matrix, where we everybody, especially if we're not used to looking at the world in terms of assumptions, it's like once you start, your eyes are opened and you see the underlying code.
Yes.
It's like streaming in front of you all the time.
Yes.
And that's okay. When what Todd's saying is don't get overwhelmed by that. So
Yes.
what I would like to encourage everybody, or my big takeaway is, which one is it? Is it the blue pill or the red pill that he has?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I want you to take the assumption pill.
Yes.
Yeah, take the assumption pill. Start to see the code and listen and look for these things. And I want you to try to get other people to take the assumption pill too. Because if you have allies on the team that listen for these things and can help support, that's fantastic, because this is the fuel of your learning engine, product people, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you have to have things coming in all the time. And if we can see the code, if we've taken the pill, we can see the code. Now you can actually prioritize, because if you have like 2 assumptions out there, it's like you're not prioritizing anything. You just have 2 things. And Todd, I have to reemphasize it again. I know I called it. If I could sit in front of a room of product people and give them a daily mantra, it is, what's the risk of if we get this wrong?
Yes. This was so fun. I love this conversation. It's an important one to have. I realized that we missed a title when we came up with titles. Assumption Spotter.
Oh.
That could be a different title for a product manager. Assumption Spotter.
Yeah, Assumption Spotter. Replace the product management title. That's what you are. You're an assumption spotter. You're an assumption spotter. You're an assumption prioritizer. And
assumption
you're an
tester.
Tester. All 3 things. Spotter, prioritizer, tester.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, brother. This was fun. I'm glad we got to sync up.
Absolutely. Thanks, Todd. I love this conversation.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you for joining us on the Product Porch. We release new episodes every 2 weeks. You can also find us on LinkedIn for more content. We offer a special thank you to AJ and Jack Blockier for the music. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts of this podcast are their own and do not represent nor necessarily reflect those of their employer.